The MBAI sales method. Main ideas. A sales session is a space-time meeting between a prospective buyer and a seller. In this meeting, the purpose of the prospective buyer and that of the seller are intertwined. The purpose of the prospective buyer is accompanied by his purchase plan, which expresses the way he will try to solve his need or desire. On the seller's side, the purpose is supported by his selling method. With the method offered by the MBAI, the salesperson will try, from the very first moments of the meeting, to identify the prospective customer's buying plan, in order to develop a sales plan aligned with the fundamentals that support the method. 4 components interact in the sales session: the purpose, the plan, the people who influence the purchase plan, and the product that solves, in a correct, complete, and timely manner, the future customer's need or desire. The achievement of the intertwining of the buying and selling purposes occurs when the transaction takes place. With this coupling event between purposes, expansion is triggered. With the expansion, both parties not only satisfy their aspirations, but also increase or extend their respective opportunity spaces, and the relationship of mutual recognition is expanded and improved, including the possibility of new interactions in the future, in other sales sessions. The route of the sales session is traveled by both the prospective buyer and the seller, with their respective plans, in 3 sequential moments or levels: identification, orientation, and acceptance. Both the prospective buyer and the seller go through the sales session with changing and chained objectives that progressively condense achievements. This accumulation of progressive achievements in each of the 3 moments culminates in the transaction, as long as the objective is completed in each of those moments. These changing objectives of the sales route coincide with the levels described above, and this causes both the prospective buyer and the seller to modify their respective roles as the sales session progresses. In the first or identification level, the prospective buyer enters the session not as a buyer but as a prospect, while the seller enters as a promoter. At this point, the objective is to promote confidence in the company, the product, and the seller himself. This will dissolve any doubts in the future buyer, generating the belief in the company's, the products, and the seller's ability to solve the problem. Having condensed the objective of the first level, we move on to the orientation level, in which the future buyer assumes the role of prospect, seeking information on the conditions and terms that will lead to the transaction. This is why the seller now assumes the role of advisor, providing all the information that the future buyer may or may not require, and that will help him to decide at the next level. In the third level, acceptance, the roles of buyer and seller unfold. The buyer will make comparisons to determine that the product being offered, as well as its terms and conditions, are the most beneficial with respect to other options in the market. The seller will emphasize the advantages of the option presented to the buyer to dissolve doubts and facilitate the purchase decision. For the condensation at each level, the method has a grand strategy for the entire sales session, and strategies and techniques for each level. The grand strategy is based on the control of the sales session. At the identification level, the strategy has 2 basic lines of action: identify the purposes, plans, people, products, and control the session, implementing specific techniques. The techniques to be employed are positioning and storytelling. The strategy used at the orientation level consists of focusing only on agreements, terms, conditions, and guarantees. The technique to be used is induction. At the acceptance level, the strategy is called gravitational closure, and the techniques to be employed are coupling readjustment and coupling closure. In short, the method offered by the MBAI is the way to manage the sales session. 2 fundamental elements are the assumption of the central purpose of the sale by the company, and the management of this process as a factor in helping the customer. This makes it necessary for the salesman or saleswoman, first of all, to understand what happens in a sales session and, based on this understanding, to control it. That is, He or she must assume the leadership of its conduction, identifying, guiding, and seeking the acceptance of the transaction, according to the purpose that gave rise to the purchase action. A sales team leader must be convinced that a salesperson, who knows or understands the fundamentals and the method, wants or is motivated and willing to put into practice this perspective offered by the MBAI, and can, or is able to apply the method to increase the volume of their sales, increase the number of transactions per sale, increase repeat purchases. Morales, S. 2021, December 24th, Sales. A New Perspective.